fireballs, and spikes. Wukong needs to find a way to avoid this, or else... Hey guys, my name is Kyle. I'm an independent mobile app developer showing you some of the key steps in building an app. This video will look at fireballs, saving, and sound effects. Last video finished off with a victory event that is called when you touch a trophy, and a defeat event that happens when you fall off the edge. When either of these events were triggered, the user was returned back to the main menu. There is one other defeat event I want to call, and this happens when Wukong runs out of health. When this happens, Wukong will act out a death sprite and be told that he has lost the game. Fireballs are an exciting way for Wukong to lose health. They will be shot from this orange dude's mouth and travel across the screen. First, I will display a fireball out of the dude's mouth. Next, I will display smoke every time a fireball is shot. Whenever a fireball shooter is created, it will be added into a list, shooter list. Within the game script, I will create a runtime event that shoots each object in the shooter list every 5 seconds. The fireballs will be added into the physics simulation as a dynamic object. Additionally, they will have a collision event that inflicts damage to Wukong. Within the runtime event, I can adjust the fire rate, giving the shooter the ability to rapidly fire rounds. In the last video, I spent quite a bit of time debugging my code. I thought I got all the major bugs, but I did miss this interesting one. Here, the clip is slowed down to super slow-mo to show these gaps, or vertical lines, between the different pieces of the platform. As the screen moves, not all the platforms move in concert, allowing these gaps to appear. One simple fix is to combine multiple platforms together to create a large platform with a width of 4 blocks. This large platform will be saved as one image, meaning all the pieces within the image will always move together, thus removing the gaps within the image. As you will see in later clips, the problem still exists at the boundaries between these large images. If I was to publish the game, I would consider creating an even larger image, or try and find a new method in fixing these gaps. Sound effects are a great way to make the game feel more alive. They tell the user where they're walking, if they've been hit, or if they beat the level. My buddy made all the sound effects for the game. He picked out which aspects of the game need sounds, and customized them to my liking. All of these sound effects were initially a .wav file. These are high quality sounds that take up a lot of memory, but it is not always necessary for a mobile app. I use the program Audacity to convert the files to either MP3 or OGG. MP3 is my favorite. It is a small file that is compatible with Android and iOS. The other option is OGG, and it is only compatible with iOS. Before each level is started, I want to call a method that loads all the necessary sound effects. And after a level, the method dispose sound effects is called to remove all the sound effects. Now I will add in sound effects that play when Wukong collides with the spikes, heart, star, and trophy. Let's see how it goes. Awesome, this one works well. And the star and trophy also play their sounds. This is great. The fireball and fireball shooter also need sound effects. When the fireball hits Wukong, the damage sound effect will play. Additionally, the fireball will also have a boom sound when it is shot, and a traveling sound as it moves through the air. Next, I want to add in an onComplete event that removes the fireball from the physics simulation once the traveling sound is complete. Perfect, the fireballs are all done. Now I want to add in sound effects for opening and closing doors. This file is for opening a door, while this one is for closing it. If you notice the change in amplitude, the height of the squiggly lines, around 1.1 seconds, this represents the door being closed. I want to sync this with the sprite animation. Instead of having the delays of 500 milliseconds, I will change this to 510 milliseconds. Now, when Wukong travels between the doors, the sprites are synced with the sound effects. I also want to sync the walking sounds with the walking sprite. To do this, I will find the frames of the sprite sheet when Wukong is on the ground. The first frame is a great example of this, also the 8th frame. A sprite event was also added into our main character's animation. When his sequence is walking, and on the 1st or 8th frame, the walking sound will be played. Hearing the same sound effect after each footstep will become very repetitive. It is best to have a variety of footsteps that are played at random. I can also use grass footsteps or rock footsteps depending on the type of platform Wukong is walking on. One of the most important pieces of code in a mobile app is saving. Nobody wants to beat a level, come back, and see none of their progress was saved. If I restart the app, I have to go back and replay the levels. Within the main menu class, I will create 2 new methods, save game and load game. To save the game, I will need to create a new file that writes down how many stars were collected and if the level was complete. Loading a game is a lot like reading an agenda. You open it, see what you got done, and continue where you left off. With all the new game features and sound effects, I want to build some new levels to showcase where the game is at. Turns out the first new level is very tough. It took me 4 tries to jump between the moving platforms. After completing the 2nd and 3rd level, I realized there are many features I still want to add in. For example, it would be nice if Wukong could duck under the fireballs. Another improvement would be sliding the screen to the left or right, allowing the user to peer off into the distance. Let me know in the comments below if you can see any improvements you would like me to add in. I also want to test out the saving to make sure all the progress is correctly loaded. I'll close my app, and you can see a picture of my dog sleeping. Now, when I reopen it, all of my progress is still there. Perfect. A little bit of everything in this level. Moving platforms, fireballs, doors. A new user may have a hard time navigating the level, but it is definitely beatable. At the start of the series, my app was nothing more than a blank script. Even after the first video, the controls were clunky and the game was very boring. I made this series to showcase the step-by-step progress in building an app. Apps require a lot of improvements and hard work to make it functioning. At the end of the day, it is cool to see that you have created something that you could play with. In my opinion, an app is never done. There are always new features I would like to add in, or features that users tell me to add. Within the graphics package I purchased, there are even more obstacles for Wukong to avoid, enemies to fight, and map features to interact with. Please, if you enjoyed this series, like, subscribe, and leave a comment on any new features you would like to see me add in. See you later.